Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word. Sorry, I am a couple minutes late, but my meeting was pretty good on time today. So it's Tuesday. It's a beautiful day today. So glad you could join me for our continued conversation through our daily word and how it might speak to us. And so for this morning, I've chosen for our scripture Isaiah 40, verses 27 through 28. And we hear these words. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. So I got to thinking about this scripture and what it means for us in light of our ongoing difficulties in our world. And some people have said to me, Jim, are they really no different, or is this worse than ever? And look, I don't know the answer to any of that necessarily. What I've said and I believe to be true is that we've always had difficulties in the world. We haven't always had a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week news cycle with cameras everywhere that we hear the news, good or bad, almost immediately. But, oftentimes our memories are short. Very often, our vision is limited. When circumstances arrive, bad circumstances arrive, we just think they'll always be with us. We don't often think that things are the way they are for now. We just think things are tough, and they'll always be tough. Difficult circumstances, they're not only temporary, but they're complex, they're difficult, and the way we feel about them are certainly part of the truth. And then we have this thing inside of us. We've been talking about it the last couple of weeks, this ingrown, born-in thing that we call faith. This idea that we're called to lean toward. So our faith calls us to lean forward. I think, too, we're called to lean towards gratitude, to lean towards joy, even in the midst of tragedy when it strikes us. And I think in our circumstances, whether they're our own personal circumstances, our own small world, or they're large, worldwide or community or city of Sydney or Shelby County or whatever it is, however we see these things, we often sometimes focus solely and only closely on our own circumstances. And we sometimes forget that in the bigger picture, we sometimes forget who God is. We forget that God is everlasting. We forget that God is worthy of our trust and our hope. We often, in our lives, take our eyes off of God and zero in on what's going on around us. And then we sometimes, I think, when we have all that, then we project our confusion onto God, and we think, well, God has just left me. I've sometimes said that in my difficulties throughout my journey with this leg of mine. And I've said, sometimes jokingly, and sometimes not, God just doesn't like me. What is my deal? Or God's just tired of me. But then there's this reminder that God doesn't live in circumstances, that God's not bound to time or our own human limitations, but instead, God is God today, tomorrow, and forever. And God doesn't grow weary. The writer of Isaiah reminds us about this. And I think it's interesting words that we've probably heard but haven't placed them in context. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and God's understanding no one can fathom. No matter what's going on in our lives, we have this inside of us reason to trust that God is going to guide us and move us in our lives. And I think sometimes, in our daily life, we have to come back to that. Our circumstances are indeed daily sometimes, or even hourly. But then we're called to remember who God is. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God. And our faith and our trust and our hope is put in that. And, I think about generations before me, people who I know in my line of people, who endured, who endured throughout their journey of life, and made a way. I think about, my dad. His dad died when he was 12 or 13 or 14. I don't remember exactly. He was 46, almost 47. My grandpa Oates when he died. And they were farmers, and their lives changed drastically. But they endured. That circumstance didn't stop them. And all of them, my uncles and my aunt and my dad, they persevered. They lived great lives. They found ways through, because in them, they all knew that the Lord is the everlasting God. And then it comes to us, and where we are in our journey of life and what God's calling us to. And it's bigger than us, and we have to, I think, sometimes just focus on the fact that God will not grow tired or weary. We can't understand God. We can't fathom it, the writer reminds us, but God does not grow tired or weary. And, for me in my faith journey, where I'm at right now, today, I was just in a meeting about emergency management, and if there was a disaster to strike in Sidney or Shelby County, what our response would be to it, how we might do that. And I walked out of there. I was at the library, and I walked out of there, and I said, "Oh God, I am so inept at all of this. I should just, I don't know what, go push a broom somewhere, because, there's all this language, I'm not supposed to know it all I know, but man, you feel so inept." I was driving back from there to here thinking, okay, I don't get it. I'm way behind the 8 ball. Maybe I'm inept. I don't know. I'm wrestling with all that and what the scripture means for me. I guess for you and I, and for me especially today, it's just that reminder that the Lord is everlasting. And that's what I need to know as I wrestle with this today. So anyway, sorry for my own little personal rant there, but thanks for joining me. Thanks for being with me today. Thanks for hanging with me for a couple minutes of being late. Know of God's love. Know of the everlasting God in your life. And my love for all of you. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.